are joining the United fleet every week, decked out with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, and power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to fit everyone's carry-on or giant foam fingers. Download the United app and book your next trip today. United Airlines, proud to be the official airline of the Golden State Warriors.
What do you think makes the perfect snack?
It's gotta be when I'm really craving it and it's convenient.
Could you be more specific?
When it's cravenient.
Okay.
Like a freshly baked cookie made with real butter, available right down the street at AM/PM, or a savory breakfast sandwich I can grab in just a second at AM/PM.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
Well, yeah, we're talking about what I crave.
Which is anything from AM/PM.
What more could you want?
Stop by AM/PM where the snacks and drinks are perfectly craveable and convenient. That's Cravenience. AM/PM, too much good stuff.
Algunas noches nacen para quedarse.
El problema no es quererte.
Ricardo Arjona.
Es que tú no sientas lo
que el seco no dijo.
Sábado 14 de marzo, Chase Center. Boletos a la venta ya en Ticketmaster.com.
Ricardo Arjona en San Francisco. Sé parte de la historia.
What's up, Dub Nation? Do you want to get cash back on Warriors gear? All you have to do is sign up at Rakuten.com/Warriors, where you can earn 10% cash back in store and online at Warriors Shop. Once you're a member, shop your favorite stores like Fanatics and Ticketmaster and watch the cash back add up in your account. Rakuten is the most rewarding way for you to shop and maximize your savings. Join Rakuten for free today at Rakuten.com/Warriors or download the Rakuten app. That's RAKUTEN.
RingCentral's AI receptionist uses voice AI to answer on the first ring, so you'll never miss a call again. In just a few minutes, you can personalize your own AI receptionist to answer questions, route calls, schedule appointments, and even send texts in multiple languages. Plus, it's easy to scale. Create unlimited AI receptionists across any phone system. It's all powered by one reliable platform for effortless AI communications. See for yourself at ringcentral.com. RingCentral, voice of your business.
Say you're a coach in Chase Center and need to draw up a last-second play. Or you're a fan in Section 212 craving nachos. AI from Google Cloud can help with both. The Warriors are using AI from Google Cloud to break down every move on the court, helping coaches game plan. And for fans, the same AI powers the mobile app, giving you personalized content, highlights, and yes, nachos ordered from your phone. With AI, you're always in the game, even off the court. Google Cloud, the official AI partner of the Golden State Warriors.
To Curry, pump fake, flyby, three ball, with the buzzer sounding!
You've been listening to Golden State Warriors basketball on the Warriors Radio Network. Presented by United Airlines. For tickets, visit Warriors.com or call 888-GSW-WHO.
Don't you wish you were here?
This Odyssey Sports broadcast was presented by ZipRecruiter. Looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Pajemski catches the inbound, launches a three. It's up and an air ball with 4.6 to go. And Golden State will fall back to 4 games above 500. And a fourth quarter run by Dallas. Marshall goes over, gets a big hug from Draymond Green. Draymond got a flagrant foul call in the fourth quarter right at the beginning of that run. And the final score, 123-115. The Dallas Mavericks with the win.
Welcome in. Warriors wrap up here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you. As you just heard from Tim Roy, the Warriors fall in Dallas to the Mavericks 123-115. Warriors had a chance in this basketball game. They really did. I mean, the score at this point through 3 quarters, the Warriors led by 5, but then Dallas, they outscore the Warriors 39-26 in the fourth quarter, and they win, again, final score 123-115. There was an 11-0 Mavericks run in the fourth quarter. Even more than that, The run was 24-5, Dallas at one point in the fourth quarter, and they used that to run away with this one late, and they ultimately, again, win this basketball game 123-115. Welcome in. Warriors wrap up here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you. Warriors now 0-2 post Jimmy Butler ACL tear. Tonight, not enough scoring behind Steph Curry. Steph scored 38 in this game. You got a good game from DeAnthony Melton, who added 20. Melton has been amazing 22 points, had a garbage time bucket there at the very end, but 22 points from Melton. You didn't really get much of anything else from anybody. Now, you had the opportunity to, because Jonathan Kaminga played in this game again and was really good in the first half, but really unfortunate for him and for the Warriors. He goes down with what the Warriors are describing as a minor knee hyperextension and ankle roll. They're saying that he's day-to-day. He's going to get an MRI tomorrow. We will learn more. But he did not return to the game after that. And once he went down, it really was a two-man show offensively, but specifically just a one-man show with Steph Curry. And the Warriors just do not have enough scoring punch behind Steph Curry without Jimmy Butler, and if Jonathan Kaminga is either not playing well or not playing at all. And in the second half, he was not playing at all because of an injury that frankly looked really scary. I thought it was something a whole lot worse than what the Warriors are currently calling it, a minor hyperextension and a minor ankle roll on his left leg. It looked like it could have been something a whole lot worse than that, so I think both sides are relatively lucky. But with the drama around Jonathan Kaminga right now and the trade deadline now less than 2 weeks away, the trade deadline is 2 weeks from today, but at noon Pacific, so we are within 2 weeks from this very moment of the trade deadline. A minor injury to a player that has demanded a trade, that has had an extremely up and down relationship with his current team, a minor injury might have major implications. I'm not saying that he's not going to play until the trade deadline comes or goes, whether he's traded or not, but you never know how these things play out. I would imagine Jonathan Kaminga has been willing to play because he wants to play elsewhere, and realizing that there's not much of a market for him at the moment, he wants to play to increase his value, which he had done through his first two appearances after 16 straight DNPs. I thought he was really good on Tuesday at home versus Toronto, scored 20 points in about 21 minutes. I thought he was really good in that game, and in the first half tonight, he was nearly perfect. And then he goes down on a fast break, an awkward landing on his left leg. His left knee kind of buckled. He also rolled his ankle as a result, and, he was smiling, but he a couple of possessions later, asked out of the game, and then kind of gingerly walked down the tunnel towards the locker room when he was ruled out at halftime, and that was his night. So, of course, we're going to keep an eye on Jonathan Kaminga because one way or another at this point of the Warriors season, he is their biggest story because he's either a piece that they play and he helps them win basketball games, or he's a piece that they trade away to get somebody else in here to help them win basketball games. Those are the two realistic paths, at least in terms of trying to win basketball games for the Warriors. And no matter, I think, what the odds are against them at this point, they're in too deep, and they're going to try to win basketball games, which they absolutely should be doing. So we'll talk about all of it. If you want to weigh in, give me a call, shoot me a text, 888-957-9570. Again, 888-957-9570. That's the number to call. It is also the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line, and I've got my eyes on the YouTube chat, youtube.com/957thegame. I see, let's see, who do I got here? I got Jake, I got Apollo, I got Green Eyed, I got GG All In, I got a handful, Chico, a few others, Empire, No, and a couple more chiming in. Keep the comments coming on the YouTube chat. Again, youtube.com/957thegame to join in on the conversation. This felt like a lot of Warriors games last year felt pre-Jimmy Butler trade, right? The Warriors get a fantastic performance from Steph Curry. You got a couple of nice moments here and there from others, and specifically the nice moments I'm talking about was DeAnthony Melton. He had 22 points on 15 shots. His ability to get to the rim is impressive, and I've talked about this a little bit in the past. It has surprised me a lot. I didn't really think of him as this elite driver and finisher around the rim. He has been so much better at that than I was expecting. Didn't think he was incapable of that, but at the rate at which he's doing it, I've been impressed. You got that from Melton, another really solid game. I mean, at this point, if we forget about Kaminga for a second, because he's, just a major question mark at this point, whether he's going to be on the team, whether he's going to even play in the next couple of games because of the knee and ankle, or whether, he's going to get traded coming up at the deadline. Just forget about him for a second. Behind Steph Curry, DeAnthony Melton is probably at a point where he's your second best player. He's absolutely your second best offensive player. Absolutely. I mean, you look at some of the other scoring outputs for the Warriors today. They had 4 players in double figures. The Warriors had 4 players in double figures. 38 for Steph. He was phenomenal. He finishes 14 for 27, 8 of 15 from downtown. All right, and some of those misses were garbage time. Not totally garbage time, but the game likely over unless Steph just goes nuclear. So Steph going to hoist some tough shots. So really his numbers were better than 14 for 27 and 8 for 15. He was amazing in this game. He kept the Warriors in it basically the entire second half. His third quarter was just absurd. He had 13 points in the third quarter alone after I think just 13 in the first half in total. 13 points in the third quarter. He could not miss from downtown. He was great in this game offensively. That's one of your double-digit scores. The other one is DeAnthony Melton. Well, I mentioned 22 points, 9 of 15 from the field, getting to the rim at will, essentially, and that's how you want to attack this Dallas team. We're going to talk a little bit later about the Warriors' offensive plan of attack because, frankly, I was confused. It didn't really make a lot of sense to me. We'll get into that coming up in a little bit. But Melton, your second highest scorer with 22 points. Then it was Moses Moody, who scored 12. He only got into double digits because of a garbage time 3 in the final minute. Okay. And then it was Jonathan Kaminga, who scored 10 points in less than 9.5 minutes. And in his 9.5 minutes, the Mavericks were outscored by the Warriors by 18 points. So your 4 double-digit scorers tonight. Stephen Curry, he's about to be 38 years old and cannot do this every single night, despite how great he is. You cannot ask him to do this every single night. It's what maybe the reality is setting in for the Warriors. It might be what has to happen for them to be competitive in this really good Western Conference, but you cannot ask him to do that every single night. That's one of your 4 double-digit scorers. The other is DeAnthony Melton, who's still sitting at a minutes limit. He can only play 25 minutes a game. He played a little more than 23 tonight. He can only play 25 minutes. That's the maximum that he can play this season. DeAnthony Melton, not this season, but currently. Steve Kerr has said in the past that could get bumped up eventually to around 30. It has not happened yet, and last time I asked him about it, he said it's not something that's really happening anytime soon. So we shall see. But 22 points for Melton. He's one of your other double-digit scorers who's on a minutes restriction. Again, the other I mentioned, Moses Moody, I'm kind of just going to put that to the wayside. He got there in garbage time. And then it was Jonathan Kaminga who scored 10 points in 9 minutes. Those are your double-digit scorers tonight. That's just not enough. You're not getting enough offensively from anybody else. Podziemski today, 9 points, 4 of 13 shooting. Buddy Hield, after he was amazing, 6 for 6 from downtown. He scores 6 points tonight, 2 for 7. Quentin Post only played 6 minutes and missed 2 wide open threes. And when I say wide open, I mean wide open. And if Quentin Post cannot make that 3, he doesn't serve much of a purpose on the floor for the Warriors right now. That's just the reality. Draymond Green tonight, 1 for 5 from the field, scored 4 points, turned the ball over 3 times. Did have 5 assists, but 3 turnovers. Just 4 points for Draymond Green. You're not getting enough offense. And again, this feels a lot like what life was like for the Warriors 2024, 2025, early February when they traded for Jimmy Butler. This just felt like, Steph, save us. You're our only hope. And Steph did his best with 38 points, but it was not enough. And maybe that's the reality that the Warriors are facing at this point. Again, the Jonathan Kaminga injury is unfortunate, and we're going to hear from Steve Kerr coming up in a little bit here on Warriors Wrap Up. I know he addressed Kaminga's injury. I can give you essentially what he said, saying that it's minor, both a knee and an ankle on that one play. He's going to get an MRI tomorrow, and the Warriors will provide an update, I would imagine, at some point tomorrow. We will keep you updated. And let's just hear that little bit, Steve. We'll hear the full Steve Kerr coming up in a sec. But if you could just play Steve Kerr talking specifically about the Kaminga injury update.
I just talked to him. He said he's going to get an MRI tomorrow. It was both the knee and the ankle. We'll see how bad it is. Such a shame. He was playing great, and that definitely hurt as well, not having him available for the second half.
All right. Thank you for that. Yeah, so that's Steve Kerr, just a little portion of what we're going to hear coming up in a little bit. But that's the update on Jonathan Kaminga, that he's going to get an MRI tomorrow, and we shall see. And again, as we try to piece together what this means, this is more than just any other minor injury because of all the drama around Jonathan Kaminga. I don't know how many of you guys were watching the Amazon, the Prime broadcast, and were tuned in for pregame. But on the Amazon Prime pregame show, getting ready for this game, they had on one of their NBA insiders, Chris Haynes, and Chris Haynes reported that Jonathan Kaminga wants out of the Warriors, and he wants a trade. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, that breaking news is 2 years late. We've known this for a really long time. My point is, there is still a lot of drama around Jonathan Kaminga and the Warriors. He demanded a trade last week. Kind of a funny thing to demand when the team has been, I think, actively engaged in trade talks around him for going on almost a year now. So I don't know what a demand does at that point. And he very clearly still does not, he has not put to bed his feelings about the organization and Steve Kerr. And by he, I mean Jonathan Kaminga, and I don't blame him. I would feel the same way, I think, in his shoes. So the point is, all of that going on, the trade deadline now less than 2 weeks away, an injury, even if it's minor and maybe cost you a game or two, it kind of all just gets thrown into this mix of drama and trade deadline and don't want to get hurt further, but want to play good enough to where maybe the Warriors actually get something that they feel is of value so that they will be willing to trade me. There's a lot of moving parts here, and just the injury is not the only thing to factor in, is all I'm going to say. So we'll see where it goes from there. But the reality for tonight specifically, without Jonathan Kaminga, just not enough scoring. Not enough scoring. And what Kaminga did in the first half, wow. I mean, I don't want to overreact to one half of basketball, but I legitimately thought Jonathan Kaminga played as good as he possibly could in that first half. Let me read this off to you, okay? So Jonathan Kaminga did not start this game, but he checked in the first quarter. In those first handful of minutes, while Kaminga was on the bench to begin the game, it was 17-11 Mavericks. Then Kaminga checks in, and the Warriors, led by Kaminga, because he came in immediately, had 2 3-point plays. Kaminga checks in with the Warriors down 6. Then the Warriors outscore the Mavericks 16-7 with Kaminga on the floor. Then Kaminga begins the second quarter on the bench, and the Mavericks outscore the Warriors 12-4. Then Kaminga checks back in, and the Warriors outscore the Mavericks 14-5. And then Kaminga, with the injury, checks out, and the Mavericks close the first half on a 14-5 run. That adds up to Jonathan Kaminga in the first half, scoring 10 points in 9.5 minutes, and he was a plus 18 when the Warriors were down 5. That means 9.5 minutes with him on the floor, they were 18 points better than the Mavericks. With him off the floor, again, in about, what would that be, 14.5 minutes, they were 23 points worse than the Mavericks. Very small sample size, I understand. But it was very clear, Kaminga on the bench in the first half, Warriors were getting destroyed. They could not score. They could not make an outside shot. And this is going to lead into what we're talking about with the plan of attack offensively. The way to score against Dallas is to get to the rim. The Warriors' issue is they don't have many players that can get to the rim, and that's only amplified now without Jimmy Butler. One of the guys that can get to the rim is Jonathan Kaminga. So it makes sense when Kaminga's on the floor, you can score more. When Kaminga's not, you can't, because Dallas, the best team in the NBA at defending the three-point line, the best team in the NBA at defending the three. So point is, go to the rim. That's the way to score on this Dallas team. And without Kaminga in, it really was Melton and Steph, and that was it. Nobody else could go to the rim on this team because they don't have a lot of dribblers, a lot of attackers, and they're not also incredibly reliable three-point shooters. You're kind of left with a damned if you do, damned if you don't offense. And that's kind of what the Warriors were looking at, aside from the 38 from Steph, the 22 from Melton, and the 10 points in 9.5 minutes from Kaminga in the first half. So we'll see where it goes from here. But this Kaminga injury just further muddies what is already an extremely confusing situation. We'll break it all down. We got calls to get to 888-957-9570. Plus, we will hear the full Steve Kerr coming up in a little bit as well. For now, time for a break. It's Warriors wrap-up on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you as the Dubs fall in Dallas. Final score 123-115. Dubs back to 4 over 500. And they are now 0-2 in the post Jimmy Butler ACL tear era. We'll see where they go from here. Okay, time for a break. More Warriors wrap up next on 95.7 The Game.
Plus interactive games, player autographs, photos with the Vince Lombardi Trophy, exclusive NFL shop merchandise, and much more. It's the ultimate Super Bowl week event with fun for all ages. Tickets start at just $40 and kids 12 and under attend for free. Visit superbowl.com to buy your tickets today.
Team up with Stanford Blood Center and the Golden State Warriors this winter to save lives. From January 2nd to 31st, every donor who presents to donate blood at any center or drive will receive a special redemption card for a co-branded SBC Warriors sweatshirt. Wear your new sweatshirt with pride, knowing that you contributed to both the Warriors community and the life-saving work of the Stanford Blood Center. Don't miss this chance to give back and get rewarded in style. Donating blood is easy, and your gift could save a life. Visit StanfordBloodCenter.org/promotions for more information.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco on Odyssey Sports Station and the home of the Golden State Warriors and Valkyries. Always live on the free Odyssey app and now coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios.
Curry looks to the far corner, can't make the pass, goes near side to Draymond, takes a handoff. Curry, guarded by Christie, takes the shot anyway, and he hit it. Christie was draped all over him. He couldn't play it any better. And it's 113-104. Curry's got 34, 8 threes. He had 11 threes in a loss here, I think back in 2021.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
One of the signs that the Warriors are in some trouble, and it's been this way for the last few years now. And welcome back. It's Warriors Wrap Up. Mark Randy with you. 888-957-9570 to join in. That's both the number to call and to text. The Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line. You can also chime in on the YouTube chat, youtube.com/957 The Game. Also, before I talk about that, I mentioned the text line, the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text on the 650 just sent this in. I think it was intended as a dig at me. The 650 wrote, Grandy shoots the ball like current Klay Thompson on the Mavs. He's about 40% from downtown. That's one of the best three-point shooters ever. Thank you, 650. I appreciate that. I don't think I'm as good as current Klay Thompson, but I appreciate the compliment. I don't think you meant it that way. But I will take the compliment, and I do have a trophy in the other room, not for three-point shooting, but for shooting on a basketball court. So I'll just leave it at that. But I appreciate you tuning in and continuing with the conversation on the 650. Let me say, though, I think one of the worst signs for the Warriors is Steph scores 38 and has to work extremely hard to do it and has a great game. And you aren't really all that close to winning, right? Like, this was a game in the fourth quarter, and it was in the balance. You had a lead going into the fourth quarter. Like, I'm not saying that you got blown out, but in, like, clutch time, it was going to take kind of a miracle to win the basketball game. Like, once you got to 5 minutes left, you kind of felt like it was over. So you weren't really all that close to winning the game. It was competitive for 3.5 quarters, very competitive. It was back and forth, run after run after run, one for the Warriors, one for the Mavericks. That was kind of the story of the game. But in a game where Steph scores 38 and does it on pretty good efficiency, right? Like, it wasn't amazing efficiency, but you score 38 points on 27 shots. That's pretty efficient. And again, a few of those misses were final couple of minutes, just heaves because you're down by 10 with 2 minutes left. Try something. So he was better than 14 for 27 in my opinion, but he scores 38 and it's not even really a game in the final few minutes. That is a terrible, terrible sign. And it's happened at other times this season, even with Jimmy Butler. I think of 2 games against Portland. Steph had scored 48 points and 38 points versus Portland this year. The Warriors lost both of those games. Let that sink in. 48 points in Portland and you lose. It's 48 points by Steph and you lose. How often, I'd have to do some digging. I could probably find it. I can't do it live while I'm talking to you guys on the air. But Steph scores upwards of 35 points. What's the Warriors' record in his career when he scores 35 or more? I'm sure it's an absurdly high winning percentage. When Steph goes off, the Warriors win. But the reality the Warriors, I think, are looking at right now, after Jimmy Butler's ACL tear that ended his season, unless there is a trade that really changes things up, and the Warriors have an ability to make something happen. It would cost them future assets, which they seem very hesitant to do, so I would not count on it, but they have the ability to do it. But unless something like that were to happen, a trade that nets you another difference maker, and I'm talking about, just because the Warriors just played his team, Anthony Davis. When he's healthy, he's a difference maker. But someone of that ilk. Giannis, of course, is like the top of the list. You somehow acquire him, and that changes everything. But if we're forgetting the Giannis, the ADs, hell, even the Trey Murphy kind of trades, anything below that level, and I think you're still looking at the same problem of Steph can go off on any given night, but it's still not even close to a guarantee that we will win that basketball game. And if that is what the Warriors are looking at, then it becomes, how do we win a game? Steph scores 35. Oftentimes that's been enough, but not anymore. So Steph scores 35. What else do you need? Okay, Melton's going to have to score 20. He can do it, but not going to happen every night. He's going to have to do that. Okay, and then you're going to have Kaminga, if he's playing, play upwards of 20, 25 minutes and score at least like 18 points. And Moody's going to have to make his threes. Post will have to make a couple of threes. Pajemski's got to play smart basketball and make a couple of shots. Pajemski today was 4 for 13, 0 for 4 from the field. Like, you just can't have that on offense. You do not have enough offensive firepower. That is one of the biggest issues facing the Warriors is Steph can be Steph, but it's no longer good enough. Not because he is somehow like way less of a player than he's been in the past. Frankly, it's hard to believe considering he's less than 2 months away from being 38. I don't know if he's really ever been better in terms of how he has to work to get a shot up. He's still absolutely amazing. But so many of these teams you're playing in the Western Conference are so good and so deep and make Steph work so dang hard for every one of his buckets that it is really, really difficult to expect him to do that every single night. But even when you get that from him on a given night, like tonight, and you still lose against a Dallas team that is not one of the better teams in the Western Conference, that are down all of their big men, right? Like they're starting Dwight Powell at center. It's why the Warriors probably felt comfortable starting Draymond Green at center, because Dallas doesn't have Gafford. They don't have Lively. They don't have Anthony Davis. They're all out. Gafford might be back within the next couple of days, but Lively's out for the season. Anthony Davis is out for at least the next month. Like, that's why Draymond was probably playing the 5, because they knew they could get away with it for a game. And Draymond at the 5, I think, is still probably where the Warriors are at their best, but we can have a Draymond Green conversation as well, because the offensive game is nowhere near good enough to have any kind of consistent positive impact. And the defense is still good, but is it good enough anymore to overshadow what he doesn't do offensively anymore? I think it's a fair conversation to have. But Steph scores 38 points and you lose a basketball game 123-115. You were down by double digits in the fourth quarter and Steph scored 38 and you lost. Off the top of my head, that's at least 3 games this year where he has scored 38 or more and you've lost. That's rare for Steph's career. When he goes off, the Warriors win. It's not the case anymore, specifically now without Jimmy Butler. So I don't know where the Warriors go from here. There's not really any easy answer. There's no given that is absolutely the right decision, because they're stuck in a really, really tough spot. You know, the Jimmy Butler injury opened up a pathway to get another big money player in here, because Jimmy Butler's contract is a gigantic one. But in order to get someone to take on that contract of a guy who's not going to play in, you would think, around a year, you have to pay up with future assets, and that otherwise known as first-round draft picks. And you heard Mike Dunleavy say just a couple of days ago, we're only willing to trade first-round draft picks that will convey after Steph Curry retires if we're getting a player back in return that is a legitimate difference maker after Steph Curry retires. And those kinds of players are few and far between. So I would not count on the Warriors making a crazy trade that brings in somebody of that ilk. And if that's the case, then you could do some minor moves here and there. You can try to just, stopgap acquire DeMar DeRozan from the Kings, which is a name that I've heard thrown around a lot of late. But I'll just sit here and ask you, what difference would DeMar DeRozan make? Is he going to score 20 points for you most nights? Yeah, probably, I guess, but it's going to cost you Jonathan Kaminga and more. And is that going to be the difference in you winning a lot of basketball games? Like, no. And what are we out here trying to do? Just go 500 the rest of the season? Like, there's not an easy answer here. There's not an easy answer here. And I do not envy Mike Dunleavy at this moment. But, I mean, the other issue is what the Warriors did defensively in this game. Dallas shot 50% from the field. They scored 123 points. Their highest scorer was Najee Marshall, who they're starting at point guard. They're starting Najee Marshall at point guard. Max Christie at 2 guard. Cooper Flagg at the 3. Then Caleb Martin at the 4 and Dwight Powell at the 5. That lineup helped put up 123 points on you. Najee Marshall nearly had a 30-point triple-double. 30 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists in 33, almost 34 minutes. He was amazing in this game. Max Christie, one of the guys that they got in the Luka Doncic trade. And I'm a big fan of Max Christie. I think he's a really interesting player. 21 points, 7 of 16, 5 of 12 from deep. Cooper Flagg's special. He's going to be great in this league. 21 points and 11 rebounds off the bench. Brandon Williams, you heard, if you were watching on NBC Sports Bay Area, you heard Fitz say countless times, he's a Warrior killer. He was great on Christmas Day, was very good again tonight. 19 points, 7 of 10 from the field, got to the line almost at will. The Warriors are patchwork offensively other than Steph Curry, and the defense doesn't have it on every single night. And if that's the case, then a lot of things have to go right in order for you to win a basketball game. And tonight was not one of those nights. Not everything went well. The thing that went well was Steph Curry was great, D'Anthony Melton was really good, and Kaminga was playing great. But then Kaminga got hurt. One thing goes wrong, and it's kind of game over for the Warriors. That is the sad reality of the Jimmy Butler injury, because they were playing their best basketball of the season. They were 12-4 their last 16. They were a season high 6 games over 500. And if you were scoreboard watching like me, you could really begin to see, oh, they might sneak up to the 7. They're close to getting out and being the 6. But now that feels like miles away from them because of one injury, and it's just really, really unfortunate. All right, 888-957-9570 if you want to weigh in. For now, though, let's hear from Steve Kerr, who addressed the media postgame in Dallas as the Warriors fall to the Mavericks. Again, final score 123-115. Here is Steve Kerr postgame tonight after his team's lost to the Mavericks.
Where'd you feel like you guys lost it tonight?
Fourth quarter. I mean, they got 39 on us. A lot of free throws. I don't know how many, probably 10 or 12. And we got killed on the glass, 54-35. That negated the turnovers that we forced from them. I liked our offensive game. We got a lot of great looks. It just was a night where shots weren't going down, but we did a good job, taking care of the ball and moving the ball. They're rebounding. Their free throws, just too much. I just talked to him. He said he's going to get an MRI tomorrow. It was both the knee and the ankle. We'll see how bad it is. Such a shame. He was playing great, and that definitely hurt as well. Not having him available for the second half.
What was the decision-making process with starting Smalley with Draymond at the center?
Well, Draymond's at his best at the 5. And I wanted to start Guy and Brandon because of their ability to get Steph shots. They're both ball handlers. They both see the floor. Steph is more likely to get open looks with those guys on the floor. So that was what went into it. And I just think that, given that Draymond is best as a 5, I think I was trying to give him the best opportunity to get off to a good start and us, get Steph going early. Didn't really happen. Steph got going late, but as I said before the game, we'll watch the film, we'll experiment. These next few games, we'll see where we are.
How would you evaluate Draymond's game overall?
It wasn't his night. Yeah, I mean, he'd be the first to tell you. He didn't really have it going, and tough night for him, but he'll bounce back.
That was obviously very predictable. Not knowing, how much do you worry about, or how conscious are you of feeling even a heavier burden?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously very capable, as he showed tonight. Ironically, the non-Steph minutes were actually really good tonight, and so it's a really weird box score. Steph has 38 points. He's a minus 24. Gary's a minus 32. It's just it didn't feel like those guys played poorly at all. Obviously, Steph had 38. He had a great game. It was kind of a bizarre game. I think we missed a ton of open looks where it felt like we could have grabbed momentum, and we just couldn't quite do it. And then they got between their, transition. Williams got through us in the first half several times. We gave up some layups, and then the free throws and the offensive boards. They got a lot of second chance points on us.
What do you make of those non-Steph minutes? How much does that go back to what you said pre-game about Al?
Yeah, I mean, we you saw the lineup we had out there. It was J.K., Al, Brandon, and Melt. I think we might have had Will out there at that point, Buddy a little bit as well. And so we wanted as much scoring as possible with two ball handlers, and it looked good. I mean, I thought those guys did a really nice job tonight.
To follow on Steph, talked so much in the last couple of days about the game is the game. Injuries happen. Specific to him, though, how do you think he's handling everything that's happened?
He's Steph, He's handling it as well as humanly possible. He's guy's got incredible perspective on life and the game and how much he loves it, and what a lucky person he is to be blessed with this talent and this career and this life. He never forgets the perspective that he has. It's one of the things that makes him special, I think. So he's embracing and relishing playing. He's crushed about Jimmy's injury. He knows what it means and what it means to our team. And that part really hurts him, but he's still going to go play and enjoy the game and enjoy his life because he's got it all figured out.
How urgent do you feel like these next 2 weeks are prior to the deadline, considering, y'all may or may not be making important long-term decisions?
I mean, we can't predict what's going to happen. Every game is important. You see the standings, you see where we are. The players are, I love their effort tonight. Their energy on the bench was great. We're going to keep fighting, and whatever happens, happens. It's not up to us anyway. It's up to front office and Mike. And so we'll see where everything goes in a couple weeks, but we're just going to keep competing.
Following up on Nick's question, you see Steph sort of clear a hurdle these last couple of days. I mean, he looked visibly, as most of the guys were, sort of visibly upset when it happened. He didn't really seem like himself Tuesday night. Was there a point where he kind of got to being approving yourself?
Well, again, I mean, you don't really have any choice but to go play. And, Steph's a guy who loses himself in the action. He loves the game. So once he started playing, he was only thinking about playing, and he had a great game. And but yeah, it's there's a lot on his plate now, and we all feel that, and we're going to do everything we can to give him help.
All right, that's Steve Kerr postgame in Dallas. A lot there. Admitted that tonight was not Draymond's night. He's right about that. We can talk about the starting lineup. He talked about Podziemski a little bit as well, and why he went small with that starting group. We'll get into that as well. I thought one thing that he said there, and it was kind of similar to something that he told Willard and Dibbs a couple of days ago. Actually, that was yesterday on Wednesday here on 95.7 The Game. It was essentially how is Steph handling the injury and like what's going on in his mind. And the answer from Steve Kerr essentially was, well, he's blessed. He has this ability. He's getting lost in the game out there, which is a good thing when maybe you don't feel great about your surroundings. He mentioned how he's just, embracing everything. It kind of sounded like Steve saying that, and I don't blame Steph necessarily, but it kind of sounds like Steve saying Steph's accepting what the rest of this season is, right? Like, did I mishear that? Did I mishear? Like, let me know, 888-957-9570. But Steve Kerr answering that question about how Steph is handling this Jimmy Butler injury, it kind of sounded to me like he's saying, yeah, he's coming to grips with what this means for the rest of this season. And hell, maybe the rest of his career. That's kind of what it sounded like. I saw this message that came in on our YouTube chat just a little bit ago. Let's see if I can find it. You can join it at youtube.com/957thegame. I can't find it. I apologize. But I can't shout out who it was, but essentially it was embracing it with a bunch of exclamation points and question marks. Like, that's kind of what it sounds like. Kind of sounds like Steph's coming to terms with the reality of, all right, maybe it's just not in the cards. And by it, I don't mean winning a championship. By it, I mean like just having an at-bat, having a chance. And that's what Steve has said. It's what Steph has said over and over and over within the last like 2 or 3 years. We just want an at-bat. We just want a chance at a playoff series. Just play meaningful basketball. And it kind of sounds like Steve is saying that Steph is just coming to terms with maybe there's not a lot of meaningful basketball left. And if that's the case, man, that is really sad. And it very well might be the case. I don't think Steph is wrong to necessarily feel that way if he does. But that's sad. That is, I don't mean sad like embarrassing. I just mean sad emotionally, as I can speak for myself, and I think a lot of Warrior fans. As a Warrior fan, as someone who's watched every second of Steph's career, that is sad that he might be feeling that way. And maybe he is. And again, the reality of the situation right now without Jimmy Butler and without, I think, an easy path out of this, I can't really blame him for thinking that way if he's thinking that way. 888-957-9570 if you want to join in. That's both the number to call and the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line. I want to talk about the starting lineup in a little bit. We will do that. We can talk about Draymond Green as well. Plus, we got to talk about the game plan offensively because that did not make a lot of sense to me today. For now, though, let's go out to the phone lines. Chardol is in Fremont and wants to weigh in. What's up, Chardol? You're on Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
Hi, Mark. I have great love and admiration for you, and you make some great content videos on the platform. As the Golden State Warriors suffer a 123-115 loss at the hands of the Dallas Mavericks from the American Airlines Center, the house that Dirk built. I mean, the Warriors had so many chances to win this game tonight, and they just didn't capitalize on everything. I mean, like the Warriors, they're on a 2-game losing streak, so they have to win the next game, or this losing streak could balloon up to 3, and it's not looking so good. And it was great calling into Warriors Wrap Up, and definitely call next time. I love everything you do on the channel, man, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Chardol. I appreciate that. And let me just tell you, Chardol, yeah, give him a round of applause. Let me just tell you, Chardol, the YouTube chat is fired up every time I say let's go to Chardol in Fremont. So keep the phone calls coming. The YouTube chat loves you. If you want to feel better, Chardol, if you're down after that Warrior loss, just head over to YouTube, youtube.com/957thegame, and you will see how much that YouTube chat appreciates your calls. Yeah, I mean, they had an opportunity to win this game. They led after 3 quarters. But, like, again, and I said this off the very top, this kind of feels like last year pre-Jimmy Butler, where, okay, Steph's going off. Steph scores 13 points in the third. A 5-point deficit at half is now a 5-point lead. Great. We have a chance to win. Can Steph do it alone in the fourth quarter? Is he good enough still? Does he have the stamina still to do it on his own? And tonight, the answer was no. I mean, he was great. He had 38 points, but you can't beat anybody in today's NBA with just one guy. That's not the way it works. And I'm being unfair to Melton. Melton was really good in this game, 22 points. But again, let's lay out the reality for the Warriors, okay? They're three best offensive players right now. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of disagreement here. Jimmy Butler is no longer included in this because he's out for the season. The Warriors' three best offensive players, okay? It's Steph Curry, it's DeAnthony Melton, and it's Jonathan Kaminga. Can we agree on that? Whether Kaminga plays or not, I think he's still one of their three best offensive players. You can quibble about the order if you want. We know Steph is number one, and then you got Melton and Kaminga 2 and 3, right? Like that's the reality. It's not Podziemski, it's not Moody, it's not Post, it's not Draymond, it's not Buddy Hield, right? Like it is those three, okay? All right, Steph is Steph. That is a great number one to have still. I don't care if he's 37, pushing 38. He's still a great number one option to have in today's NBA, and probably still will be for as long as he plays. He could be 40 and he'll still be a great number one. That's how amazing he is. But beyond that, all right, let's say you think Melton is their second best offensive player. Okay, Melton is your second best offensive option. Well, he's capped out at 25 minutes tonight. Okay, so just that alone puts all that much more pressure on Steph Curry to get the job done. Because your second best offensive player, or your third, however you want to rank it, can only play 25 minutes a night. And tonight only played 23. Okay, what about your third best offensive player, Jonathan Kaminga? Well, he had just been getting DNPs for a month straight. And now that he finally has rejoined the rotation because of an unfortunate injury to Jimmy Butler, he plays great, but then he gets hurt. And we still have hanging over our heads the trade deadline, which is now less than 2 weeks away. So if you're Steph and you're looking at where is my support, and you say, all right, I have support in the form of DeAnthony Melton. You say, well, he can only play 25 minutes a night. And I have support in the form of Jonathan Kaminga. Well, he and the head coach have been sparring for years. He doesn't want to play here anymore. He's probably only playing right now so that he can prove to other teams he's worth trading for, and then he wants to get up out of here. And that's the support that he has offensively? I mean, it's a disaster, right? It's a disaster offensively. And it all happened because of that one injury to Jimmy Butler. And again, I'm not saying that Jimmy Butler being healthy means the Warriors were going to win the championship this year. Like when I'm talking about Steph coming to terms with that, like it might be over. I don't mean over in terms of like winning championships, like that very likely, like almost guaranteed is over, right? Like we can be somewhat real about that, but just the hope and the desire to play meaningful basketball in April, like that's what Steph has wanted. And when that's your reality, when your two best weapons behind Steph are a guy that's on a minutes restriction and a guy that wants out of here and that just went down with a minor injury, like the reality might just be it ain't in the cards. It ain't in the cards. And maybe that's what everyone's coming to grips with. Maybe. I don't know. It's pretty sobering right now for the Warriors because things were feeling so good and then they just immediately changed. All because Jimmy Butler landed awkwardly on that was Monday. No, that was Tuesday. Landed awkwardly on Tuesday. And now his season is over. And the Warriors have lost consecutive games since then. And we'll take a look around the NBA and look at some of the other scores. But things ain't getting easier for the Warriors to climb out of the 8 seed in the Western Conference. 888-957-9570. Rich in Daly City wants to chime in. What's up, Rich? You're on a Warriors Wrap-Up with Mark Randy.
Hey, Mark. How's it going? I want to give you your flowers, not in the Sardo kind of way, but flowers to you nonetheless.
Appreciate it.
Hey, ever since last year, Curry said he just wanted to be relevant, and obviously tonight's, the latest news is not indicative of that. And so I wonder, taking a page from Bill Walsh, better to trade someone early than late. I mean, building a young franchise might be pretty exciting. If we're not looking at or seeing anything in the next couple of years, that's the last, tail end of a great run. So I was wondering, would it make sense to try to get young guys now and picks with this year's draft being one of the best in years? We might start the rebuild now. I mean, people don't like to talk about it, but you think it's a plausible scenario.
Rich, let me ask you. Let me ask you, Rich. How are you getting those picks? Who are you trading away to get them?
Well, I'm thinking like you're gonna have to trade it to a team that has young talent. Like, what about a Houston? You get some of their young guys, or you go to OKC and say, hey, give me some of your high picks. You can have Curry, and you got to run for at least a couple of years more.
Yeah, so, Rich, you're talking about trading Steph, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he signed for, 2 years? And Butler's not going to be recovering anytime soon for at least for another year. And you're on the hook for him for another 2 years, too. So everything is tied money-wise to Steph, so as well as Butler. So is now the time to start thinking about rebuild.
Yeah, I hear you, Rich. I appreciate the thought. I can just tell you that it's never going to happen. Never going to happen. Steph Curry is not getting traded. Maybe the thought has popped into a couple people's heads down there at Chase Center, but it's never been entertained past the, I wonder what we could get for him. Like, it's never gone past that, and it never will. Like, Rich, there is legitimate basketball sense in exploring that. It's never going to happen. It's just as simple as that. I think the general idea of you might get to a point eventually where you say, like, Steph, we tried everything we can, and the Warriors have not been perfect at this, by the way. They definitely have not been. I wasn't a consistent on-air contributor here at 95.7 The Game way back when Kaminga, when Wiseman and Kaminga and Moody were drafted. But if you were walking around the hallways of 95.7 The Game back then and you ran into me, I would have told you they need to trade those picks before they make the picks. Right? Like, I've always been on the help put everything in the bucket to help Steph now. And the Warriors, I don't think, have fully embraced that. I don't think so, personally, in my opinion. They could have done a whole lot more. Now, they've frankly done a pretty good job. I mean, they won a championship in 2022, and they acquired Jimmy Butler last year, and he immediately turned things around and gave them a legitimate chance last season, and looking like they were going to have another chance this season. Didn't work out. My point is they could have done a whole lot more, but they might get to a point. Maybe it's this offseason. Maybe they give it one more real run next year, but they might get to a point where they say, Steph, like, we just can't do this anymore. We're keeping all of our first-round draft picks, and we're going to begin to look to the future. And that's not a terrible strategy, again, to your point, Rich, but it's not going to come at the expense of trading Steph. It might come just naturally, and you stop spending a ton of money on a bunch of high-priced veterans, and you get younger. You maybe you consolidate a couple of picks and you move up in a draft or whatever the case is. Like, it's not going to happen by getting younger, and rebuilding is not going to happen by virtue of trading Steph. It's going to happen eventually. It's a matter of exactly when, but it's not going to happen by trading Steph. Steph's going to retire a Warrior, and then the Warriors are going to be left with a gigantic challenge, which is to win without Steph, because they have never done that. Never. The Warriors, before 2015, when they won the championship, the last championship the Warriors won was 1975. So, like, the Warriors have never won. I mean, in my lifetime, and I would imagine most of your guys' lifetimes out there, have not won a championship unless Steph was on the roster. They might get to a point where they just say, all right, we got to start planning for the future. But that is not going to get pushed along by trading away Steph, is my point. But there is, like, some basketball sense in that talk. It's just not going to happen because Steph is different than just a normal basketball asset. Steph is Steph. He is this franchise. He means everything to this fan base and to this area. And could you imagine the uproar if Steph were to get traded? Like, just think about that for a second. Could you even imagine that? There would be protests in downtown San Francisco. Nico Harrison traded away Luka Doncic, and he was getting death threats. They had to build him a secret passageway out of the arena in Dallas just so he didn't get, like, literally trampled by fans. He got fired. He gets death threats. He cannot show up in public anywhere in Dallas. Like, if that were to happen, it would be that times 10 out here. Luka, in the prime of his career, I get it, but also had not won a single championship. Steph has won 4 of them for the Warriors and is one of the 10 best players of all time. So, like, it's not happening. It could make the most sense in the world in terms of purely basketball sense. It's never going to happen. And frankly, in my opinion, as a result of that, it's not even really worth entertaining. But I appreciate the call. I do. Let's talk about the Warriors starting lineup tonight and welcome in, if you want to join in, 888-957-9570. The Warriors started Steph Curry, Brandon Pajemski, Moses Moody, Guy Santos, and Draymond Green, the Warriors' 20th different starting lineup this season. They went to Draymond at the small ball 5, I think partially because the Mavericks don't really have a true big man. Their big man tonight, if you want to call it that, big man in air quotes, was Dwight Powell. And their 4 was Caleb Martin. So this is an opportunity for the Warriors to go smaller and to not really give up a ton of size. So it made sense, frankly. Now, I thought the best way to go about it was play Kaminga at the 4 instead of Guy Santos. This was not a game for Guy Santos. This is a game for players that can get to the rim. You look at what Dallas does defensively, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the starting lineup conversation. It's why I thought this was a game for Kaminga and a game for Melton, and it turned out to be. Kaminga scored 10 points in not even 10 minutes, and Melton scored 22 points in 23 minutes, because those are 2 guys in the Warriors that can score at the rim. 1, it's get to the rim, and then 2, score at the rim. If your name is not Steph Curry, you're going to have a hard time scoring in this game unless you can drive the basketball, because Dallas, the best defense against the three-point shot this season in the NBA. They hold opponents to 32.9% from deep. That's the best mark in the NBA. Yet, they give up the most points in the paint per game this season. It's because Anthony Davis has been in and out of the lineup. Derek Lively's out for the season. Gafford has been mostly healthy, but not healthy right now and has missed a handful of games. They don't have big men. So, you score in the paint on them. They got a lot of length on the perimeter, which is what makes their three-point defense so good. But you can score if you get inside on them. The Warriors' issue is, again, either you're Steph and you're otherworldly and you can score on any three-point defense. You can also get to the rim, but Steph, his best ability is his three-point shot, and he can get that off against any defender at any moment. I don't care if Dallas is the best three-point defense in the league. Steph is still Steph, and Steph will win that matchup as he did tonight. But if you're not Steph and you don't have that crazy ability to shoot over and create your shot against anybody, then in order to score versus this team consistently, you have to get to the rim. And how many Warriors that were active today do you trust to put the ball on the deck, drive past their guy, and score at the rim? I think it's a 2-person list. Okay, we're taking Steph out of it. It's Melton and it's Kaminga. And as a result, I know Melton and his minutes limits. You can't just start him willy-nilly and say, all right, we're going to play you 30 minutes tonight, Melt. Like he can play 25 minutes max right now. That's what the word is from the medical staff. So you're kind of limited there. But I thought it was a game for Kaminga to start. I thought it was a game for Kaminga to play 30 minutes, and you kind of ride or die. You live or die on if Kaminga can consistently get to the rim. And much more than Kaminga's, we say he's 3 for 3 from the field and all that. It was just how he got those shots. It was driving. It was getting out in transition. It was drawing fouls. It was being all in the paint the entire time. He took 3 shots today. All were in the paint, and 2 were inside the restricted circle. 2 points, 2 buckets right at the rim, and then 1 like 8 feet out, but in the paint. And it was a fadeaway. It was an and 1. Made all of his free throws, too. It was literally the exact kind of shot chart, limited because he only played 10 minutes with the injury, limited shot chart, but perfect shot chart that you could dream up for Kaminga versus this defense. And it's why he was able to take advantage against a porous interior defense. And it's why if he plays in the second half, the Warriors might win this game, because this was a game that was tailor-made for Kaminga. And frankly, the Warriors' desire to just shoot threes kind of regardless of who the opponent is, it is a little confusing to me. I get, like, if it's what you think you're best at, then it's hard to maybe change from game to game, and the Warriors have been shooting the 3 ball so well of late they had 4 straight games with 20 or more made threes, and that tied an NBA record. So, I'm not here to tell you they should only have shot 20 threes tonight, right? But this is a great three-point defense, and they could be had on the interior. This was the game I thought to maybe work a little bit more on the interior than the three-point shot. They were 15 for 46 from downtown, 33% from deep. Not terrible, but that's buoyed by Steph's 8 of 15. So Steph was 8 of 15. That means the rest of the team was 7 for 31. And that's what? That's less than 25%. 7 for 31, that exact percentage is 22.6% from downtown. The rest of the team, if you're not Steph Curry. And that's what Dallas does to you defensively. They were a great three-point defense. So with that in mind, I thought the starting lineup was a little strange, and it's why the Podziemski conversation is an interesting one. I've been seeing a lot of this in the chat, and if you want to join in, youtube.com/957thegame, and we just had a comment that came in on YouTube. G4M3F2P, I don't know if that stands for something. I'm just reading off the letters there. Says, Grandy, it's not confusing, it's coaching. It is a season-long plan. And I think for the most part, I understand it. There are games where it doesn't make sense. Tonight, I think, was one of them. Now, if Post makes a couple of threes, if Podziemski makes his, then we're feeling different about it. But again, that's a strength of the Dallas defense that you are kind of leaning into by taking all of those threes instead of trying to get to the rim. But on the flip side, it's, again, like what I said is true. They don't have a lot of guys that can get to the rim. And if you're asking me, would I rather Post take an open three or try to let Guy Santos dribble and get to the paint, I'd say, all right, Quentin, take the three. At some point, your players have to just make the open shots as well. But it didn't happen tonight. I also think one thing that's interesting, and we're going to go back to the phones here in just a sec, Podziemski as a starter is an interesting conversation. And I saw a lot of these comments on the YouTube chat, youtube.com/957thegame. And I was thinking, I wonder what the splits are for Podziemski as a starter versus as a reserve this season. And it's interesting. So first of all, the minutes played, he plays on average about 30 minutes per game when he starts, and he plays about 26 minutes per game when he's off the bench. So it's, obviously more as a starter, but it's not like an absurd difference. Across the board, not the counting numbers, right? He averages more points, more rebounds, more assists, although very slight when he starts and plays more minutes. That makes sense. But if we're talking about percentage-wise, he is better across the board off the bench. And it's not even close. As a starter, 41% from the field. As a reserve, 49.6% from the field. As a starter, 32% from deep. As a reserve, 44.4% from deep. At the free throw line, as a starter, 71% from the line. As a reserve, 76% from the line. There is something to be said for Podziemski off the bench. And by the way, those numbers, they basically hold up over the course of his entire career as well. It's not exactly the similar, direct straight line across the board, but pretty similar over the course of his entire career. And this is something that we've talked about in the past with Podziemski. I think I have voiced my my belief in him as a positive player for the Warriors. And I think maybe to the point where a lot of you guys that are listening, the YouTube chat specifically, has disagreed with me on that. But it's in certain circumstances where I think Podziemski is a very positive player. And if he's not in those circumstances, that positive impact is a lot harder to find. Podziemski is at his best when he does not have to be one of the featured scorers. And for the Warriors, without Jimmy Butler, it's why they ran into so many issues last year, I think, pre-Jimmy Butler. And now, without Jimmy Butler, and for the moment, without Kaminga, right? It's why the second half, I think, was really tough for the Warriors. They scored 39 points in the third quarter. It wasn't terrible. But specifically, when you break down what Podziemski did in this game, if he's being asked to be a starting scorer level kind of guy, it doesn't work out as well. he can still start, right? But if he's starting, it should be alongside maybe 2 or 3 other scorers, guys that can get you 20 points. But if you have him on the floor and he has to play like a secondary scorer role, I don't think it's how you maximize what he does. And Steve will say this over and over. He is a connector. Podziemski is a connector. And I think it's true. But in that, I think lies kind of like a backhanded compliment. He's a connector, which means by definition, he connects things together. What does he connect together? Like multiple scorers. And he helps facilitate those players to score. But if he's on the floor without the multiple scorers to connect, there's not a lot for him to connect, and he has to then become the other scorer. And he's just not that guy offensively. So that is also another fallout of the Jimmy Butler injury, is it kind of turns Podziemski back into what he was pre-Jimmy Butler's injury last year, which was playing a role that does not suit him. And that's another thing the Warriors are facing is, well, the Jimmy Butler acquisition did, and it's what I didn't think that the Jimmy Butler trade would happen, but I remember I was filling in for Dibs one day on Willard and Dibs. And one thing that I said, and I hammered this home over and over and over that day, it was maybe a few weeks before the deadline. I said, I don't think the Warriors are that far away from taking off. What they need, though, is another legitimate scorer so everybody else just slides down the pecking order. Because last year, Kaminga was being asked to be a 2, right? I think he's more equipped to be a 3. Podziemski was being asked to be a 3. He's maybe more as a 4. Moody was asked to be a 4. Maybe he's more as a 5. And so on and so forth. But once Jimmy came in, they slid everybody down, and they fit into those roles a whole lot better. But now that Jimmy's gone, you're right back to, Podziemski's got to be like the 2. If Kaminga's out, for sure, he's got to be the 2. And even if Kaminga's the 2, he was great today, but he has shown at times that inconsistent at times as well, which is why him as the 2 is not great either. So it's really unfortunate, but I think the Jimmy Butler injury just immediately takes the Warriors back to where they were last year. Now Melton is here, and that's great, and Al Horford, not a bad influence at all. I just don't think it's enough. Are they better, this team right now, with Jimmy gone than they were before Jimmy last year? Yeah, I think so. But before Jimmy last year, they were at best a 500 basketball team. So it's not saying a ton. We'll see where it goes the rest of the season. 888-957-9570. Jay is in Reno and wants to weigh in. What's up, Jay?
Hey, Evan. Good work as usual. We have a serious Draymond Green problem. His play has just fallen off a cliff, and I was always a big backer of Draymond, even after the pull punch. But there's no defending how fallen he fell off. He's making $25 million a year or so, right? And he's probably going to opt in next year. I think we gotta try to look to move off him. But I know him and Steph are always tied to the hip, but there's no way Steph's okay with his play right now. He's absolutely producing nothing on the floor. Every time he's on the floor, I feel like he's minus 20 plus and plus minus. There's got to be something we have to look into in moving him. We're probably going to have to attach picks, I would think. But he's making $25 million and he's not giving you nothing. And we have to use that money to get somebody else in here to score, because this team can't score the ball besides Steph, of course. I wanted your thoughts on that, and think about what you think about that.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Jay. I mean, tonight was a bad Draymond Green game. There's no denying that. Steve Kerr said as much post game. It's absolutely true. We talked about this a little bit earlier. I don't think Draymond is going to be traded. Yeah, he's got a player option coming up. I'm sure he's going to pick that up, and I think he's going to ride off into the sunset just like Steph is going to, and like I think Steve Kerr is going to. And frankly, if that's what he wants, he's earned the right. Absolutely. Is he anywhere near the impactful player that he was maybe like 7 years ago? No, he's not. That's the normal way of things. Is he at a point where him starting and playing 30 minutes a night is the best thing for the Warriors right now? We could have that debate. It might not be the case anymore. I still think he's one of the best defenders in the league. It's not as dominant or as consistent as it once was, But there's no doubt that we've seen his offensive game dwindle, right? And there was a stretch of basketball early this season, or not early, but a few weeks ago. And let me find it exactly so I can read it off to you, where he struggled mightily with a turnover problem. Let's see. He had a stretch where he committed 8 turnovers and 5 turnovers in consecutive games, then had 3 turnovers, 1 turnover, 4 turnovers in a span of 3 games. And Steve Kerr would pull him aside and talk to him about that. And that was the moment where they had like that spat on the bench. I believe that was the Orlando game where he committed his first turnover of the game. That came a couple of games after the 8 turnover game and the 5 turnover game. That was the loss in Portland where Steph scored 48 and the Warriors lost, partially because Draymond committed 8 turnovers. Then in Phoenix, he committed 5 turnovers. And then they won at home versus Phoenix on December 20th. That was where Draymond got ejected in the first half. And then the next game versus Orlando, he left the game essentially in the third quarter because Steve Kerr pulled him aside after his first and only turnover of that game, by the way, and had some choice words for him, I would imagine. And Draymond Green said essentially, I know myself. The best thing for me in that moment was to leave the floor because he didn't want to say something that he would later regret to Steve Kerr. So he left so the situation, could diffuse. But he left the floor. Like there was a legitimate thing going on there with Draymond Green, Steve Kerr, and turnovers. After that moment, though, he'd been pretty good about it, but of late it hasn't been as good again. Portland on the 13th. So what's that? A week and a half ago, 6 turnovers. 2 turnovers versus the Knicks, 3 versus the Hornets, 2 versus the Raptors, 3 more today versus Dallas. And those numbers are simply too high for a guy that, was 1 for 5 from the field and scored 4 points. On Tuesday was 3 for 9 from the field and scored 6 points. Now, he had 20 points in a win versus Charlotte, but those are relatively few and far between. And if that's the kind of offense that you're getting, it's inconsistent at best from Draymond Green, and he's not having the impact that he has in the past been having passing the basketball. Like today, there was a couple of decisions with the ball in his hands where you left scratching your head. Steph Curry was cutting back door, I believe, and Draymond had the ball at the top of the key. There are 2 guys that are top blocking Steph under the basket, and Draymond tries to thread the needle down low to him, and it's just easily knocked away and intercepted. And it's just, I don't know what you're seeing in that moment. Those are the kinds of risks that Steve Kerr had been talking with Draymond about. You just can't take those risks anymore. We're not good enough on the margins to take those risks anymore. And yet, it still feels like they're taking those risks. So, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for Draymond Green. Is it coming off of the bench? I don't know, maybe. But I still think Draymond Green, when he's at the 5 and you have, honestly, I think Kaminga playing next to him at the 5 and you have Steph and you have Melton, like that's still the makings of a pretty darn good lineup. Like a combination of Steph, Melton, Moody, Kaminga, Draymond, I think could still be a pretty darn good 5. Honestly. Steph, Melton, Moody, Kaminga, Draymond. That's not a terrible 5, I don't think. In the right matchup, right? Like in a matchup tonight versus Dallas where you can afford Draymond minutes at the 5, it's not terrible. But also the issue for the Warriors is you can't afford to play Draymond at the 5 a ton anymore. And with Kaminga back in the rotation, although we'll see with his injury, Kaminga's always been his best at the 4. So Kaminga at the 3 has not worked. And you're not really going to go back to that, I don't think, anytime soon either. All right. We're going to wrap things up here in just a little bit. First, though, let's go to Will in Berkeley who wants to weigh in. What's up, Will? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game.
What's up, my brother? I think we need to pump the brakes on the Draymond bashing. I think that we are facing a little bit of PTSD from the 49ers loss, from losing Butler. I think that tonight was the refs, being a little bit whistle-happy, especially on that first flop that happened with the elbow situation. That was definitely a flop.
Yep. I didn't think it was a flagrant either. You're right, Will.
I mean, it was ridiculous. And so, Draymond needs to cool his heels, and he needs to be a grown man. And we know that. And not, again, I'm not caping for Draymond. I'm saying that we need Draymond because the rotations have been really, really bad in the past. And now we finally got something going until we see Butler going down. Now we see Kaminga going down. And it's like, we got to straighten out these rotations. And honestly, I feel like, all the Kerr bashing and all the, this person needs to do this and that. This is a team that is going down in terms of, time. I mean, what do they say? Father Time is undefeated.
Yep.
We need to regroup. We need to get back on track. And the only way we can do that is if we talk to each other and say, look, this is the situation. We got to get back on track. Draymond, you know what you've been doing. You get frustrated in these situations. Get back on track. And it's not, there's no trading going to happen. I don't feel like anything's going to happen until next year. So that's my 2 cents. I appreciate you guys. Take care.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Will. Look, I'm not up here sitting here telling you that Draymond Green is a negative and he is incapable of being a positive and the Warriors should bench him and not play him and the Warriors should trade him. Like, I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying I think for the majority of the way that he's played this season, he has not been a positive. I think he's capable of it. He has shown on multiple nights this year that he can be a positive. It's just not anywhere near the positive that he was in the past. And more often than ever before, he has been a negative. We've seen him be a positive this year. It's not like incredibly rare. Like, in fact, it's not that rare at all. But the negative games are beginning to come at a whole lot of a higher rate than they have at any time before in his career. And I don't know. Again, we were talking earlier about the Warriors and maybe Steph Curry specifically, like facing the reality of the situation. And maybe the reality of the situation is he's coming to terms with maybe the fact that it's going to be really difficult for him to play meaningful basketball this season, or maybe for the rest of his career, maybe. And if that's the case, then I don't know. I mean, what this feels very defeatist, but if that's the belief that you're coming to, and based on what Steve Kerr said today, it kind of feels like that's what Steph is coming to, then what difference does benching Draymond make in the large run? Doesn't really make much of a difference. But I don't know. I think the Warriors should try Draymond at the 5, Kaminga at the 4, alongside Steph and Melton and Moody for a stretch. See how that works, because I think it would I think it has the possibility to, given the Warriors' current roster construction, be one of their best 5-man groups. Because it allows some spacing with Steph and Melton and Moody. It allows multiple people to be able to drive in Melton, Steph, and Kaminga. And it's got some quality defenders on it as well with Draymond, Melton, and Moody. And now you do lack size, and if you go up against a Jokic or a really, really big team like Houston, like that's going to be a challenge. But I do think in a lot of matchups, that's a lineup that could be a big positive for the Warriors. We will see. 408 chimes in on the Boxer and Gerson work injury attorneys text line. I'm with Will. Draymond is a legend. He is a legend. He's an absolute legend. He's a Hall of Famer. He's going to have a statue outside of Chase Center when it's all said and done. But I think we can look at this and be honest that he hasn't been as good this year, anywhere near as good this year as he's been in the past. And, okay, the Warriors could know that. They could see that. They could agree with that. And they might say, but he's Draymond Green. We're playing him. And to that I say, all right, fair enough. It's Draymond, just like it's Steph. But we'll see where it goes from here. All right, last call, and then we'll get on out here. Before I go to a call, I want to remind you, you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, an Odyssey sports station, always live on the free Odyssey app, and now broadcasting from the Laughing Monk Studios. Up next, and to wrap us up tonight, it's Doug in Napa who wants to talk about Jonathan Kaminga. What's up, Doug?
Yeah, I was just wondering, the whole Kaminga thing, they drafted him 4 years ago. Why is it that they just are just acting like he's they're just going to trade him? I just don't get it. I mean, the guy's a beast, and I think he fits in pretty good with the team, actually. But what's your take on that?
Yeah, Doug, first of all, I want to correct you. It's approaching 5 years now since they drafted Jonathan Kaminga. 4.5 years since they drafted him. This is his 5th season with the Warriors. I mean, it's been a long story, and if I were to answer that beginning to end, I'd be here for another hour, and we're not going to do that right now. My read on the situation is Jonathan Kaminga wants, above anything else, to be traded because of the way that he feels, and I think he has every right to feel this way, that he has kind of been yanked around, jerked around at times with his playing time and his role. Steve Kerr will tell you, well, I'm trying to win basketball games, and in my opinion, he hasn't had a consistent enough positive impact in order to help us win basketball games, so I've moved away from him. It has gotten toxic. Whether it is purposeful or not, it has gotten toxic. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And I would argue, and I heard this from people on the Kaminga side of things, I heard that early this week, that if he was asked to play after Jimmy went down with an injury, I heard this the morning after Jimmy's injury, like 10 hours after it was announced that Jimmy Butler tore his ACL. I heard from the Kaminga camp that Kaminga would play if called upon. What I had also heard prior to that was they were scared that the Warriors would not trade Jonathan Kaminga. Now, if I can put those two things together, I would tell you my read on why Jonathan Kaminga is willing to play right now is because they realize, Kaminga's camp have realized, there is not a ton of demand. There's not much of a market for Kaminga on the trade front right now. So in order to expedite their desire to move away from the Warriors, they have said, you know what, all right, we will play if you want us to play, Steve Kerr and the Warriors, because JK is going to play. He's going to play well, and he's going to up his trade value. The Warriors will finally get what they're wanting from someone else, and they will be willing to part with Kaminga so Kaminga can just go and get his career off the ground somewhere else. That is my read on the situation. Because you remember that OKC game at home a couple of weeks ago when Kaminga was going to play, and Steve Kerr said on this very station he was going to play that night, and then Kaminga mysteriously ruled out late with lower back soreness. That, to me, felt like a silent protest from Kaminga, as in, no, I'm not going to play for you anymore. I don't want to risk an injury, which happened today, and ruin my chances to get traded. But then reality set in. Kaminga's camp was like, oh, we might not get traded because the Warriors are going to be a little stubborn with the asking price, and we might be stuck here for the rest of the season. So they said, okay, Jimmy's down. You know what? We'll play, and we're going to play because I think that's the best way for us to get traded. And it was working, and then Kaminga got hurt. So it takes another crazy turn tonight with this Jonathan Kaminga injury. If you missed it, Steve Kerr said postgame he's going to have an MRI tomorrow. It is a knee hyperextension and an ankle turn. Both do not seem to be all that serious, according to Steve Kerr. He's day to day, but he's going to get an MRI tomorrow, and we will know more after that MRI. All right. That's going to do it for Warriors Wrap Up tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. It was a long one, but there was a lot to get into. Thanks to my guys, Cam Williams and Steven Risotto behind the glass, as always. Thanks to all of you for tuning in, for calling, for texting, for joining the conversation on the YouTube chat as well. Always a pleasure hanging out with you here on Warriors Wrap Up. Up next for the Warriors, they are in Minnesota on Saturday. It's a special 2:30 start time on Saturday. I have Warriors Live beginning at 1:30 right here on 95.7 The Game. Quick look around the NBA. Some of the other scores. The Blazers up by 9 over the Heat in the fourth. That's bad news for the Warriors. You should be rooting for the Heat in that game. Blazers are on the Warriors' heels. If the Blazers win, the Warriors will only be a game and a half ahead of the Blazers in that 8th spot. So Warrior fans should be rooting for a Heat comeback. The Clippers lead the Lakers by 5 in the fourth quarter. Probably want to be rooting for the Clippers, although the Clippers, if they continue playing great basketball, they might be on the Warriors' heels as well. We will see there. Elsewhere, important matchups in the Western Conference. Not a whole lot that really impacts the Warriors elsewhere in the West, besides those two games, which are still TBD. Okay, That'll do it. I'll be with you on Saturday for more Warriors basketball. Until then, my name is Mark Rainey signing off. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk next time right here on 95.7 The Game.
Hola, amigos! It's the big noise, Brad Evans from BetMGM tonight. Listen Monday through Friday starting at 6 p.m. Eastern.